Well, thank you very much, Beth. You are indeed very, very kind. It is really a very distinct pleasure to be able to introduce our speaker today, who I think will provide a very intriguing presentation titled Looking at Iran, the Rise and Fall of Iran in Public Opinion. Not only will he discuss American opinion, but will also discuss the change of opinion about Iran in the Arab and Muslim worlds where polls show a precipitous decline of support. Dr. James Zogby is founder and president of the Arab American Institute and is managing director of Zogby Research Services, which is famous for the Zogby poll. He and his brother John have a long record of accurate predictions in American presidential elections. They gained a lot of notoriety and national attention for their predictions in the 1996 presidential election, where their final poll came within 1/10 of a point of the actual results. They've also achieved spectacular accuracy in predicting other presidential elections. Now, I want to say I think it's a real honor to be invited to speak at the Detroit Economic Club, but how many people can say, my younger brother also spoke at the Detroit Economic Club? And his brother, John Zogby, who I mentioned earlier, was here in the fall, I believe in September, and spoke before us. So we're very happy to have both of you here. But they've been very successful with presidential elections. But what I think is particularly significant here is that they've been very successful in conducting polls and measuring opinion in countries outside of the United States, which is in part what he's going to talk about today. They correctly called the 2001 Israeli election of Ariel Sharon, the 2000 Mexican election of Felipe Calderon in 2006, and they've conducted numerous polls in Arab countries. So I suppose we won't hear John Zogby or James Zogby quoting Yogi Berra, who once said something like, predictions are very difficult, especially those involving the future. They seem to have a good knack at predicting the future, and I know it's through very hard work that they can get there. In 1993, Vice President Al Gore appointed Dr. Zogby to lead Builders for Peace following the signing of the Israeli-Palestinian Peace Accord. Through this private sector committee, he promoted business investment by Arab citizens in the West Bank and Gaza. Dr. Zogby has also been personally active in politics. He serves on the executive committee of the Democratic National Committee and co-chairs the DNC's Resolutions Committee and Ethics Council. Dr. Zogby was born and raised in Utica, New York, the son of Lebanese Catholic immigrants. And I believe in hearing him speak to our students, he's very proud of his background. He received his bachelor's degree in economics from Le Moyne College and went on to earn a doctorate in Islamic Studies from Temple University. A lecturer and scholar on Middle East issues, U.S.-Arab relations, and Arab-American history, he's authored numerous books as well as Washington Watch, a weekly column on U.S. politics that is published in 14 Arab and South Asian countries. From 1993 till 2011, he hosted the award-winning Viewpoint with James Zogby, a live call-in TV program aired in Abu Dhabi. He has received numerous awards, distinctions, and honorary doctorates in the U.S. and from Arab countries, including one from his own alma mater. His most recent ebook is called Looking at Iran. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a very warm welcome to our speaker, Dr. James Zogby.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I was going to begin by mentioning something about my brother, but I'll begin actually with a bit of clarification about the biography. John is the pollster in American politics, and I think one of the best. It is he who actually established the brand Zogby here and has done the presidential polling that has made the brand as recognized as it is. I had a great opportunity beginning in 2001 to take the polling to the Middle East. And in the last couple of years, we've started Zogby Research Services to focus just on polling across the Middle East. So I just need to pull apart a bit my brother's accomplishments, which are his, and mine, which are actually in this field more recent, but building on the work that John has done. I wanted to say something about a lesson I learned from John early on in this work. Polling is important because it reveals truths, hard truths, sometimes truths you don't want to hear or know about. You may like them, the results, or you may dislike them. What John found in his polling was when he had Democrats up, they loved him, and Republicans said he's the worst. When he had Republicans up and Democrats down, Republicans loved him and Democrats thought he was the worst. Don't shoot the messenger. Pay attention to what the messenger is saying because it actually makes a difference. In October 2003, we polled Iraq. It was the first time anyone had polled in Iraq since the war. We found that the results weren't pretty. Iraqis weren't happy with us. They weren't happy with the military. They weren't happy with what they saw as an occupation, not as a liberation. They wanted us out. And they actually wanted a very different country than the one we thought that they would want. We released the results. 3 days later, I turn on Meet the Press, and Dick Cheney is on, and he's talking about a very reputable poll done by Zogby. And I said, ooh. And he said, we polled them, they polled them, and what they found is that they love us. They want us to stay, and they think it's working, and they want to be just like us. I wrote an article, got the headline, I didn't make the headline up, they made it up, called Bend It Like Cheney. And I argued in the piece, it's one thing to force intelligence before you go into a war. It's an entirely different thing when you're in the middle of the war and you got your young sons and daughters at risk and you get information that says this isn't working and you then turn a blind eye to it. And not only that, but you pretend it's saying something that it's not. Public opinion matters. Sometimes it matters as a matter of life and death. And so this issue of Iran is critical. It's important that we understand Iran. We've polled in Iran. One of the elections that we called was one of the Iranian elections. We were closer than the Iranian news agency in calling that one. We've polled on how Iranians look at Arabs, but this was a study that we did on how Arabs look at Iran. And not that it ought to be decisive in shaping policy, but it ought to factor into thinking about how we talk about Iran, understand Iran's role in the region, and therefore how we would behave. When you get into policy discussions here in the United States about Iran and its nuclear program, one would think that it is exclusively an Israeli concern. Ignored completely are Arab and Muslim attitudes towards Iran, especially those of Iran's immediate neighbors across the water. It's known that several Arab governments have a problem with the Islamic Republic in Tehran. But what of their publics? What of public opinion? Over the last decade, we've polled on this issue. Regional attitudes towards Iran and its policies have been an issue that we've explored now going back 10 years. Culminated in 2012 with this big study. We polled 20,000 people in 20 countries, 17 Arab and 3 non-Arab, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Pakistan. And the results are in the book, Looking at Iran. It's available on Amazon in an ebook form, but I have hard copies for sale here. But if you want to go on Amazon and get the ebook form, I will appreciate it, my brother will appreciate it, and my family will appreciate it. And I think you'll learn something from it. I'm going to talk a little about the results today and about the attitudes towards Iran, its people, culture, and its nuclear program in particular. There have been some dramatic changes, what we find out. We also find out the drivers behind the changes. For example, when we polled on Iran's nuclear program and attitudes towards Iran and attitudes towards Iran's broader policies in the region, in 2006, Iran was at its high point in the Arab world. Back then, Iran's favorable ratings were in the 75% positive range. Saudi Arabia, for example, gave Iran an 85% positive rating. 6 years later, the tables have completely turned. Now, in the poll we just completed last November, Iran's favorable ratings in the same countries have dropped to an average of about 20-25%. In Saudi Arabia, it is